Welcome to the Bible Breakdown. It's a black man and woman in America who no longer identify as believers. This show contains adult languages, themes, and isn't meant for children. As black people, we respect the history of the black church in America, but its current state is massively abusive, and we think the Bible might be part of the problem. Listen and let us know what you think. Peace. Welcome back to the Bible Breakdown. I'm your host, Kat.
And I am TK.
Hello, TK.
Hello, Kat.
Oh, man, how are you feeling this beautiful sunny morning?
I feel pretty good. At first, I thought you said Sunday, and I was like, it's not Sunday. But yeah, I feel pretty good.
Yeah, I don't have a concussion. I know what time it is.
Okay. Just checking.
No, but yes, do you want to tell the people what we talked about last time on the Bible Breakdown?
Yes, 2 Kings 1, 2, and 3. We discussed Elijah's denouncing of Ahaziah. We discussed Elijah ascending to heaven. And we also discussed what? Jehoram? I don't know. He reigned over Israel, and there was a war with Moab.
Yeah, this is kind of a retelling of some of the stories we read in 1 Kings.
Yes.
Would you agree with that? With it, maybe some extras in there, like we didn't get the name. I was speculating that a lot of times in 1 Kings, when we would hear like a certain man of God, they might have been talking about either Elijah or Elisha. Like now we got names.
Yes. I know an Elijah too.
I do too. And it's a very popular name because he's a very popular figure in the Bible because he's the only person in the Bible who never died. So, that's how it was taught to me, because God liked him so much, he just took him into heaven in a whirlwind.
Supposedly.
But as we discussed last episode, Kat personally thinks that Elijah's protege, Elisha, killed him, and that's the story he came up with when people were like, hey, where's Elijah?
Yeah, far more interesting story.
So, because people want to give like this credibility to these like dehydrated desert dwelling people, but like people are just people. Like if let's just say tomorrow you're getting your hair cut and your barber tells you, it's like, wow,
so like I was today.
Beautiful. And so like, let's just say today, while you're sitting in the barber chair, your barber tells you like, this weekend I was out, at, Eagle Creek Park going for a hike, and my cousin who was walking with me just was taken up in a whirlwind to heaven.
You would think he was a crazy person.
You would think he was a crazy person, or that he killed him.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that is just always it's like, oh, why are you coming up with a fantastical story right now to distract me from the fact that I'm not going to see Elijah no more?
Yes. Well, I mean, again, at that time, people probably were aware of the fact that they could get away with such atrocities. We didn't have things today like DNA testing and security cameras
and constant vigilance, because you are always being recorded. So behave accordingly.
Yes. Do you believe that your phone is listening to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I believe in that more than God.
Okay.
I think Google is now the all-seeing, all-listening presence in our world. Maybe not the universe, but definitely in our world.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. It's like, whatever. What are you going to do? It's the trade-off. I was just thinking, like, it's amazing that we are miles away from each other, but we can see and hear each other in almost real time. Like, there's almost no delay in our talking. So we're giving these incredible powers, like, you don't get stuff for free. It's like, okay, and here's my personal information.
Yes. Shout out to all the scientists, all the engineers, all the doctors, all
that work.
All these people. I mean, it's fantastic what they can do.
It truly, truly is. Okay, well, I was saying like this is a long one today. Today we're going to be reading 2 Kings 4-6. This is the New Revised Standard Version. It's going to be Elijah and the widow's oil. And I was saying before, I think this is probably the story from 1 Kings where Elijah just runs up on a woman and is like, hey, make me some food.
Okay.
That was my guess. We haven't read it yet. Let's see. 2 Kings 4. Now the wife of a member of the company of the prophets cried to Elisha, your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord. But a creditor has come to take my 2 children as slaves. Elisha said to her, what shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house? She answered, your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil. He said, go outside, borrow vessels from your neighbors, empty vessels and not just a few. Then go in and shut the door behind you and your children and start pouring into all these vessels. When each is full, set it aside. So she left him and shut the door behind her and her children, and they kept bringing vessels to her, and she kept pouring. When the vessels were full, she said to her son, bring me another vessel. But he said to her, there are no more. Then the oil stopped flowing. She came and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil and pay your debts, and you and your children can live on the rest. Elisha raises the Shulamite's son. One day Elisha was passing through Shunem, where a wealthy woman lived, who urged him to have a meal. So whenever he passed that way, he would stop there for a meal. She said to her husband, look, I am sure that this man who regularly passes our way is a holy man of God. Let us make a small roof chamber with walls and put there for him a bed, a table, and a chair, and a lamp, so that he can stay there whenever he comes to us. One day when he came there, he went up to the chamber and lay there. He said to his servant Gehazi, call the Shunammite woman. When he had called her, she stood before him. He said to him, say to her, since you have taken all this trouble for us, what may be done for you? Would you have a word spoken on your behalf to the king or to the commander of the army? She answered, I live among my own people. He said, what then may be done for her? Gehazi answered, well, she has no son and her husband is old. He said, call her. When he had called her, she stood at the door. He said, at this season in due time you shall embrace a son. She replied, no, my lord, O man of God, do not deceive your servant. The woman conceived and bore a son that season in due time, as Elisha had declared to her. When the child was older, he went out one day to his father among the reapers. He complained to his father, oh, my head, my head. The father said to his servant, carry him to his mother. He carried him and brought him to his mother. The child sat on her lap until noon, and he died. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, closed the door on him, and left. Then she called to her husband and said, send me one of the servants and one of the donkeys, so that I may quickly go to the man of God and come back again. He said, why go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath. She said, it will be all right. Then she saddled the donkey and said to her servant, urge the animal on, do not hold back from me unless I tell you. So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. When the man of God saw her coming, he said to the Gehazi, his servant, look, there is the Shunammite woman. Run at once to meet her and say to her, are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is the child all right? She answered, it is all right. When she came to the man of God at the mountain, she caught hold of his feet. Gehazi approached to push her away, but the man of God said, let her alone, for she is in bitter distress. The Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me. Then she said, did I ask my Lord for a son? Did I not say, do not mislead me? He said to Gehazi, gird up your loins and take my staff in your hands and go. If you meet anyone, give no greeting, and if anyone greets you, do not answer, and lay my staff on the face of the child. When the mother of the child said, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave without you. So he rose up and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the face of the child, but there was no sound or sign of life. He came back to meet with him and told him the child has not awakened. When Elisha came to the house, he saw the child lying dead on his bed. So he went in, closed the door, and the two of them prayed to the Lord. Then he got up on the bed and lay upon the child, putting his mouth upon his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands. And while he lay bent over him, the flesh of the child became warm. He got down,
walked once to and fro in the room, then got up again, bent over him. The child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. Elisha summoned Gehazi and said, "Call the Shunammite woman." So he called her. When she came to him, he said, "Take your son." She came and fell at his feet, bowing to the ground. Then she took her son and left. Elijah purifies the pot of stew. When Elijah returned to Gilgal, there was a famine in the land. As the company of the prophets was sitting before him, he said to his servant, "Put a large pot on and make some stew for the company of the prophets." One of them went into the field to gather herbs. He found a wild vine and gathered from it a lap full of wild gourds and came and cut them into a pot of stew, not knowing what they were. They served some for the men to eat, but while they were eating the stew, they cried out, "O man of God, there is death in the pot." They could not eat it. He said, "Then bring some flour." He threw it in the pot and said, "Serve the people and let them eat." And there was nothing harmful in the pot. Elisha feeds 100 men. A man came from Baal Shalisha, bringing food from the first fruits to the man of God, 20 loaves of barley and fresh ears of grain in his sack. Elisha said, "Give it to the people and let them eat." But his servant said, "How can I set this before 100 people?" He repeated, "Give it to the people and let them eat. For thus says the Lord, they shall eat and have some left." He set it before them. They ate and had some left according to the word of God. Whew. Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God. All right. Had a little pedophilia in there, it seems.
Well, I mean, just because he put his mouth on his mouth, I mean, you're gonna. It's funny because this is now ringing some bells. I kind of remember this, but I mean, what are your? I mean, let's go. Okay, let's go back because it starts with the widow story. So it sounds like this isn't like the story from First Kings. This is a little different because once again, why is no one addressing the slavery? Like, I've owed money before. You've owed money before. No one has threatened to take our family members as slaves.
Yeah, I owe money now, and that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I prefer that.
Well, I mean, it's a inhumane thing to do. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's definitely like that.
It is. That's perfect. Yes,
okay.
Slavery is inhumane.
Yeah, it's like that seems very extreme. But
agree.
Do they still? Because they don't even still. If you can't pay at a restaurant, they don't even make you wash the dishes, do they? They just call the cops.
I don't know. I guess it's up to them. I honestly don't know. I know they don't keep your children as slave labor.
That is true. They don't do that.
But, like, I notice a lot of, well, maybe not a lot, because, like, I'm not a scholar or anything. I can't put a number on it. But I've heard this story. It's similar to the story of Hanukkah, where the miracle was the oil didn't run out.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like...
I never understood that story, but I've only heard it when I was a child.
Sure, but it's a,
Seems very 40 loaves or whatever, loaves of bread and fish to me.
Yes, it seems like in a time that, like, we live in a time where people are trying to eat less because we don't want to be fat, but this would have been a period of time where calories would have been hard to come by. So the idea of, ooh, this guy can do miracles where the food doesn't run out, like, that would be very enticing and very impressive. But to me, an American in the year 2024 common era, nah, that's not super impressive. Now, bringing someone back from the dead, that's kind of impressive. But I've got a couple theories here, or hypothesis. Let's go. Okay, so this woman, I want to give her a name because it's easier to talk about people when they have a name. So just give me a woman's name.
Peggy.
Okay, so Peggy is, so she's seen Elisha around. She's like, hey, I see this guy. He comes to town. I'm pretty sure he's a holy man of God. Let's make him a room in our house. It's kind of unusual. I think they were banging. She even said her husband's old. And it just so happens after she meets this dude, she gets pregnant.
Yeah.
So
all the signs are there.
Yeah, like I said, I can't give any like magical properties to any of these stories. In my experience, like there's usually not some supernatural explanation for events. Usually it's pretty darn natural, and there's nothing more natural than doing it. So I think that's more realistic. And then when the child fell ill, it made sense that she's like, hey, my son, definitely not your son, but my son has fallen ill. You need to come see him. And so the idea of, I don't know, I think the performance element of like, because yeah, even her like laying the child on Elisha's bed instead of the child's bed is kind of unusual. I don't know.
I agree.
So, but yeah, it all works out. And, oh, and then the stew. I think I was taught that this was just like a metaphor for purifying like the bad practices of Israel.
Again with the metaphors. Why can we never have literal shit?
Well,
you read a history book and it's meant to be taken literal. Nobody ever says the Civil War was a metaphor for something else. Like, that is what happened. Nobody says the Holocaust was a metaphor. That is what happened.
Well, this isn't the Holocaust. This is just a pot of stew.
All right.
I don't know. Did you? I don't know.
I mean,
but yeah, once again, like I was as growing up, just sharing my personal experience, but I was always taught to revere both Elijah and Elisha. But like looking back on this with adult eyes, these guys, I don't like them.
I'm hard pressed to find anybody in here that I mean, yes, I've tried to be objective and fight for people, but that's just, trying to create objectivity for the show's sake. But I don't personally feel like I've found anybody in here that I like or even care to remember past the time that we record this.
I will say, I don't know about likable characters, but there's been some stories like I genuinely enjoyed reading. But like I said, I haven't used them as like a moral guide for my life. Like for me, living a moral life is, trying to basically like not harm other people. To me, that's like usually kind of my standard for it's like, oh, is this an okay to do? Am I like as long as I'm not hurting anybody, cool. But this seems like a lot of this stuff hurts a lot of people.
It's almost
especially the slaves.
Near impossible to do that though, unless you just go and live in the forest somewhere or in the wilderness somewhere. Like there's almost impossible to do that, like even by extension,
to do what?
To not harm anyone. Or
no, I'm not saying I never would. I'm just trying.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's almost near impossible to do, like even by extension.
It's not impossible to try.
It's not impossible to try, but it's impossible to achieve.
Of course, but that's not why I do things, is because like everything I do is imperfect. So I don't not do things because I can't do it perfectly.
Okay. Well, I was going somewhere with this point, which was by extension, just surely having a cell phone is in a way supporting the harm of other people.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm living a perfectly moral life. I'm just trying to I'm just trying. It's like The Good Place. Did you ever watch The Good Place?
No, you've brought the show up multiple times.
It's a good show. I'm probably going to bring it up at one more time after this. Yeah. I'll probably keep mentioning it. But it's the same sort of concept of a lot of times we don't pursue the good because we're not able to perfectly achieve it. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be arcing towards improvement. Like that's the thing. It's like, and when we learn something is harmful, mitigating the harm, even if we don't reduce all of the harm, like like just less harm is better. It's even like in pain management, like if someone's like, if you're like in intense pain and someone's like, well, I can't get rid of all the pain, but I can get rid of like 80% of the pain. And you'd been like, nah, if you can't get rid of all of it, I just want all the pain. It's like, nah, just, you know.
Yes. Okay. The goal should always still be to eliminate all of the pain.
Of course, like you have to have an ideal you're shooting for, but you can't just stop because you're never going to reach that ideal. Seeing that we were talking about art earlier. I'm not going to be the greatest artist of all time, but I'm still going to do my personal best. Like, I think that's,
Yeah.
That's all we can do. Like, you can't give up. But I definitely am not using Elisha as, I don't know how I'm supposed to use this in my life. I'm definitely not going to lay on top of any children. I know that much.
Yeah, please don't. I'm not taking anything from them, so.
Oh, and we had a new character pop up.
Yes.
Jahazi. Yeah, that was Elisha's servant who got a name, but the woman, the Shunammite woman, she didn't get one. But you gave her one, Peggy. Her name's Peggy now.
Again.
Peggy was probably just doing her best, man. It had to have been so isolating because, once again, like, marriage wasn't something women were willingly going into. It's just something that's set up for you. And so I have to imagine, like, being married to an old man, that's got to suck. I hope she did get her rocks off.
Well, once again, women not be given rights. I recently had a talk with an attorney woman who's like adamant on getting married, and she's only 26, by the way, but she was like, her big thing was like, I don't want people wasting my time. I know what I want. And we kind of went down this rabbit hole of marriage, and I was just like, well, she asked me, do I want to be married? And I said, well, I will get married. But, I've never in life wanted to get married. I don't know why that is. It's never something.
Probably not pushed on you the way it is for women, because men are still valued if they're not married. But women, I even think about the fact, too, that even though I'm divorced, the fact that I was able to, like, close the deal, I still have higher status in our patriarchal society than women who've never been married. Because I got a guy to close. I got two guys to seal the deal.
Yeah. So
like, since she's never been married, society, like I said, I don't personally feel this way, but a lot of like our Midwestern values will look, it's like, well, why has no one wanted to wife you up? There must be something like defective about you.
Maybe the fact that she has a strong ass personality and like.
But does that disqualify you as a wife?
I
feel like
how much time do we have?
Women, I feel like lots of strong opinion women do get wifed up. Like, I don't think that's a disqualifier. Is she thick?
I've not met her in person.
Oh, I would say
from
thick.
No, from her picture, she doesn't look very thick. No. I mean, she doesn't look thick. She looks fit, but she doesn't look thick.
I have found, like, in the weddings I've gone to, most of the women getting wifed up are kind of thick. So maybe she should try maybe less cardio and more carbs. It's even funner.
Maybe, I don't know. I feel like we live in an interesting time in the Western world, because there seems to be a disconnection on what we should have in relationships. Like, from a guy standpoint, I hate using this term because I feel like it lacks context, but no nigga want to be with a woman who's not agreeable. So there's
Wait a minute, you just said you like being yelled at a couple episodes ago.
That was a kink, and I'm learning that even with that, that, yeah, I do like bitchy women. Like, I'm attracted to the attorney woman. She came off strong. I'm like, ooh, I like, talk to me like you little fucking.
Okay, so.
But I don't. But
okay, so you're contradicting yourself.
No. One, I'm a special case. Two, that is in moderation, because there gets to a level where it becomes disrespect. Like, there's the difference.
Okay. Okay,
Talking
so
to me
limits.
strongly and firmly, and that's different than saying, nigga,
You know
I don't give a
what?
fuck about you. I don't care if you die. I hope you get AIDS. All things have been said to
Damn.
me recently.
Jesus.
Like,
Oh. Okay. Well,
yeah.
that's that. I once again, I've never been a man looking for a wife, so I don't know what kind of. I'm just saying, as someone who's gotten 2 rings, a lot of times there's really not anything you can do. All you have to do is just be open to someone who wants to marry you. Like, that's it. You can't.
as a dude? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying as a woman. If you want to get married, you have to be open to the men who want to marry you. I think the mistake that women make is that they pick out men that they want to marry and try to get that man to marry them. What you have to do is realize that you can't make somebody do something they don't want to do. Because quite honestly, when a man wants to marry you, there's not a lot of beating around the bush. Like, the men who are interested in you are very intentional, very clear. They put in that work. They do what it takes. The men who are not interested in marrying you do not do that stuff. It's almost overly simple.
There's a lot of triggers in that, but I don't
Why?
think we have the
What? How
time.
is that triggering?
I agree with you, but I also
Thank
feel
you.
like they're
The
like the whole
truth
thing
is
about
triggering?
men being intentional. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like enough people understand, because we didn't talk about this on the podcast, but we have brought this up before about zodiac and astrology and shit. And I told you the other day that I feel like
Hard eye roll.
people should have more understanding of personality types.
Yeah.
I think that
than
has
trying to
more-
do their star chart.
And I just think people don't have enough understanding of personality types, which also leads them to not have enough understanding of the opposite sex. And there seems to be, at least in my fucking feed, in just the discourse that I see amongst women, is that if you don't take initiative as a man, you must be disinterested or whatever like that. But that's not necessarily true. Because I've been in situations where it's like,
I'm talking about marriage, though. Like, when I'm just, it'll crystallize more. It's just different than dating. Like, yes, there will be men who will do things to date you. I'm just talking about for the women specifically, the woman you're talking about and the women like her who want to get married and are super fixated on it. I'm just talking directly to that, speaking to that. I'm not speaking to any other type of, like, sort of male-female dating relationship. But, like, when you're talking about women you want to pursue, are those women who are like, yep, that's my wife?
there's a few of them. But then I feel like every
Damn,
time, I
that's-
feel like,
no, I'm not talking
What do you
no,
what do you mean, damn, what?
because it's too ambivalent. Like, that's my thing. Like, I feel like if it was for real, like, no, I need to, like,
There's people at the top of my mind that I was like, I would wife her.
no, but that's what I'm saying. Just the fact that you're saying there's people.
What the fuck? Like, you can have multiple people like that you would want to wife, but at the same time, like, the reality of making that happen isn't just dependent on just me.
Listeners, write in and tell T why I'm right.
Okay. Second Kings. 5, New Revised Standard Version. The healing of Naaman. Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Aram, was a great man and in high favor with his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Aram. The man, though a mighty warrior, suffered from leprosy. Now the Arameans, on one of their raids, had taken a young girl captive from the land of Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "If only my Lord were with the prophet who is Samaria, he would cure him of leprosy." So Naaman went in and told his Lord just what the girl from the land of Israel had said. And the king of Aram said, "Go then, and I will send along a letter to the king of Israel." He went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of garments. He brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, "When this letter reaches you, know that I have sent to you my servant Naaman, that you may cure him of his leprosy." When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, "Am I God to give death or life, that this man sends word to me to cure a man of his leprosy? Just look and see how he is trying to pick a quarrel with me." But when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent a message to the king, "Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come to me, that he may learn that there is a prophet in Israel." So Naaman came with his horses and chariots and halted at the entrance of Elisha's house. Elisha sent a message to him, saying, "Go, wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean." But Naaman became angry and went away, saying, "I thought that for me he would surely come out and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, and would have his hand over the spot and cure the leprosy. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean?" He turned away and went away in rage. But his servants approached him and said to him, "Father, if the prophet had commanded you to do something difficult, would you not have done it? How much more when all he said to you was, 'Wash and be clean'?" So he went down and immersed himself with seven times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God. His flesh was restored like the flesh of a young boy, and he was clean. Then he returned to the man of God. He and his company, he came and stood before him and said, "Now, I know that there is no God in all earth except in Israel. Please accept a present from your servant." But he said, "As the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will accept nothing." He urged him to accept, but he refused. Then Naaman said, "If not, please let 2 mule loads of earth be given to your servant. For your servant would no longer offer burnt offering or sacrifice to any god except the Lord. But may the Lord pardon your servant on one account. When my master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there, leaning on my arm, and I bow down in the house of Rimmon, when I do bow down in the house of Rimmon, may the Lord pardon your servant on this one count." He said to him, "Go in peace." Gehazi screamed. But when Naaman had gone from him a short distance, Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, thought, "My master has let the Aramean Naaman off too lightly by not accepting from him what he offered. As the Lord lives, I will run after him and get something out of him." So Gehazi went after Naaman. When Naaman saw someone running after him, he jumped down from the chariot to meet him and said, "Is everything all right?" He replied, "Yes, but my master has sent me to say, 2 members of a company of prophets have just come to me from the hill country of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 changes of clothing." Naaman said, "Please accept 2 talents. He urged him and tied up 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of clothing, and gave them to 2 of his servants, who carried them in front of Gehazi. When he came to the citadel, he took the bags from them and stored them inside. He dismissed the men, and they left. He went in and stood before his master, and Elisha said to him, "Where have you been, Gehazi?" He answered, "Your servant has not gone anywhere at all." But he said to him, "Did I not go with you in spirit when someone left his chariot to meet you? Is this the time to accept money and to accept clothing, olive orchards and vineyards, sheep and oxen, and male and female slaves? Therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and to your descendants forever." So he left his presence leprous, as white as snow. Ooh, thanks be to God.
Thanks be. Okay, so the newest character, Gehazi, looks like he's getting a little greedy, even though it seems like he's just running the game. Isn't that the game?
That is the game. Pimping.
I mean, maybe Elisha was just like, cut me in before you make moves.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. That's what all mob bosses do.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let me wet my beak. Let's see. Leprosy. Leprosy is very interesting. So, I went ahead and just looked up like the sort of medical definition of leprosy, and it sounds like it's just something that's caused by a bacteria. So it makes a lot of sense that if someone did have leprosy, you might tell them to go wash themselves. It sounds to me like Naaman, what are we calling him?
I just said Naaman.
Naaman. He seems like he was like kind of upset that there wasn't more production value to his miracle. Like he wanted him to come out and stuff instead of, well, for one, he went to the king first. Now, once again, I'm sorry, I keep digressing, but there was just so much slavery that I need to address first. That both bookended this story. So first off, Naaman, he finds out about Elijah from one of the slave girls where he works. From Israel, which is crazy, where it's kind of like, because you're gonna, I can't, once again, this just sounds like a terrible time to be alive. So I was, while y'all were raiding a village, you took me, you kidnapped me, and now I gotta work for the enemy. And then I see that you're sick, and it's like, oh man, back home there's a guy who could have really fixed you up. And it's like, I wouldn't even tell him that. I'd have been like, I hope this kills you. Like, this is, but maybe that's just me. That's how I feel about people who kidnap and, keep me somewhere against my will and don't pay me. I'm uppity like that. But no, this chick was like, man, I hate to see you looking like this. Or maybe just for her own safety, because you can transmit leprosy. So she's like, hey, go get right. Hey, maybe take me with you so I don't have to live here anymore and I can go back to my people. Or maybe these people were easier to live with. I don't know. Israel sounds crazy. I can't imagine this place was less crazy if they're going to Israel for help, but whatever. So he goes to the king first. The king has an outsized reaction to being asked for help.
Yeah. He takes off his clothes or whatever. Yeah. Tears his clothes. He tears his clothes.
It's like, he could have just been like, oh, you were in the wrong line. You came to the wrong place. You need to go to Elijah. I'm the bureaucracy. Like, you want the miracles. So he makes it to Elijah. Elijah just looks at him. He was like, I don't even want to get close to you. Just go wash in the Jordan. The Jordan might have the right type of microflora bacteria that helps to, sometimes they use bacteria.
Which he scoffed at that. He scoffed because he wanted a show. He wanted
to have a story.
Well, he also thought that other other bodies of water would have been cleaner or nicer.
Yeah, but it's like, dude, the whole whatever. So you can pollute it with your little shit. Yeah. So for whatever reason, let's just say this is anyway rooted in reality. Maybe the Jordan had some sort of bacteria that was especially good for fighting leprosy, and that's why he had him do it 7 times. His skin was that like a young man. It's like a commercial, and so then. But Elijah, this Elijah character, he sounds gangster as hell. Like, so he tells Gehazi, it's like, well, since you didn't cut me into your little scheme to get the little silver or whatever, now you're cursed with leprosy. Boom. And also something about slavery there too, where he was like, is it time to accept money, to accept clothing, olive orchards, vineyards, sheep auction, male and female slaves? It's like, why do you have to say male and female slaves? Is it not enough to just say slaves?
Oh, they're different. They're used for different purposes.
But I mean, when you say slaves, I just assume men and women. Like, to me, slaves isn't a gendered term. Well, but maybe it is in Hebrew. Maybe that's a translation thing. I don't know. Maybe the word they use it's kind of like Negro and Negress.
Yes.
But I feel like when you say Negroes,
slave should be nonsensical, is what you're saying. Just like actor is technically nonsensical. You don't have to say actress like an actor.
Does nonsensical mean non-gendered?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So yeah, that's whatever. That's not my big problem with the story, but yeah, it's just the fact that they're just all so cool with the Lord, and the Lord is super cool with slavery.
Or I'm sorry. So nonsensical means it has no meaning. It makes no sense. So
okay, that's what I thought, but I don't know the meaning of all the words.
But yeah, but
I just say non-gendered. It's
So
just a
to say
non-gendered
actress
word.
or to say negress or to say, I guess in this context of what we're talking
Priestess.
about, female slave,
Mhm.
like it makes you don't have to do that because you could just say slave.
But I'm just talking about in the original like language this was written in. Maybe like I don't know. I don't know why I'm making excuses for the Bible. This was bad. This is bad. It was a bad message and not super great writing either.
It hardly ever is.
Okay. Let's get this over with. I'm sorry, did you have anything you wanted to add from what you read?
No, I think you covered the points. I didn't have anything else to spice it up.
Okay. Are you Christian yet?
That's not gonna happen.
Okay.
It's not. Like I'm not even. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm trying to learn not to say I'm sorry when I'm not sorry.
Thank you. Because I hear I'm sorry so much every day, and it's starting to drive me crazy. It's like you don't have to apologize. You're just a person who's here.
Yeah. I no. Like I have not prayed. Like the last time I prayed, quote unquote, was Friday, but I was at a celebration of life for somebody. So prior to that, I don't know when I've done it. Oh, no, I do know the last time I prayed. Prior to that, I tried to hurry up the prayer so we can get on with it because I thought it was rude that they introduced and asked us to pray. And apparently, we're not the only ones that thinks that's rude. Like, I've talked to other people who are like, yeah, that is kind of weird that people do that. And it's like, yeah, you're assuming
Well, you have to remember,
that
people are coming for you because if people can convert you, that's like catching like the 50-pound bass. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm Moby Dick in this bitch.
No, I think there's because once again, that kind of happened to me yesterday where it's very clear that certain family members are trying to bring me back into the fold, which I appreciate because it does feel nice to be wanted. But at the same time, like you said, it's just, I've gotten the information. It's just the pass.
Also, speaking of family members, two things. Shout out to my grandma.
Woo-hoo!
Her birthday was yesterday. I almost forgot that her birthday was yesterday. She would never listen to this shit, but I just wanted to put it on record that I love that woman. And the holiday kind of messed me up, and then technology is not reliable because usually, I do know my grandma's birthday, but you also usually get like an alert that's like, oh, today is this person's birthday. And my uncle's birthday is the day exactly. One of my youngest uncle's birthday is the day right before hers. But for some reason, I was like, oh, no, it's like 2 days after. And I don't know, holiday, everything threw me off. Shout out to her. Second thing, which is, I'm not going to say more important, but more along the lines of the point of family members. On the low, I kind of be feeling like my father's side of my family don't be fucking with me like that because they know my views.
That's a very real thing.
Like, I'm starting to feel
ostracized.
I'm
sorry. Does that hurt?
Bit.
You can be honest. This is a safe space. This is the Bible
breakdown. Like, yes. On some level, it hurts. Like, it doesn't keep me up at night, but on some levels, it hurts. Yeah, it hurts for sure because it's like, you still my family, and like, I don't get that from my mom. Like, I had a conversation the other day with my mom where some shit got brought up, and like, she was just like, "Oh yeah, you're my son." Like, I don't have to agree with whatever, but like. I just never realized until the last few years how much of for all of her flaws, like how great my mom was.
Yeah.
She got that right. that right of like, you're my son. I love you.
Yeah.
No matter what.
I feel like that's the most important thing.
Like
to get,
that
right?
is. Yes. And I didn't realize how fucking like privileged, like everybody doesn't have this. Like, I didn't know people just live under this fear of like, oh, my family won't fuck with me
Okay,
if I'm gay
so
or if I don't.
I have to break
if
it
I'm
now
not a
because I don't want to
believer.
forget. But like 2 really good shows. If you're like Kat, like you like working through your emotional issues through television programming, and so the Gerard Carmichael reality show on HBO Max and Young Sheldon on, I think that's on Netflix right
What?
now. Yes, Young Sheldon. It's a sitcom, but both of them are this situation where our main character, and it's interesting to me, like I relate so much to these male characters. I've never really seen this with a female character in modern media, where you have a very religious parent and a very non-religious child, but there's still that love there and that struggle to have that connection in that relationship, even though you don't have those views. So Young Sheldon, yeah, they set that up really well, because Sheldon, he's a scientist, and he was like, he's growing up in like Medford, Texas, you know, like it's very religious, and he's just like, nah, I'm not doing this. But he loves his mom so much, and she loves him so much, and it's so, the conversations they have, I don't know why, it's like these conversations I've never been able to have like with my religious family members. And then same thing, Gerard Carmichael in real time. Like, this isn't a sitcom, this is his real life, and he's struggling to reconcile with his mother, who's not completely rejected him from being gay, but has let it be known that she's not okay with it. Keep in
So
mind,
sad, man.
her own husband had a whole side family, and she got over that.
Yeah, people do that, but you don't
And
believe
keep in
God,
mind, he
can't
pays
fuck
for her
with
like
you.
her son, like Gerard pays for her house. Like, that's what's crazy to me. Like, if I'm sorry, let me calm down, because like I can't judge this woman, because I know the root of all this, which never gets brought up in at least the Gerard Carmichael show, is that a lot of this religious fervor is a trauma response. And it's especially pernicious for Black women because you're also having a trauma response from slavery. Whereas Christianity is like being on base. Like, Master would be cool if you convert to Christianity and you get an extra day off. So, it becomes this Christianity becomes a very real refuge for a tortured people. I just want to let people know, we's free now. We don't have to do this. But yeah, those shows are really good for working that out. But I hate to hear that about your dad's side of the family. But it's cool that they haven't just straight up rejected. Because, I mean, at least you're not gay. That's what they're probably telling themselves.
That was what my father actually said to me when he first heard that I had a girlfriend.
Just imagine if you were like a gay non-believer and be like, we can't even have him in the house.
And I until this moment, I guess I never really thought much of that.
What, if you were gay?
No.
Oh.
I knew I wasn't gay.
No,
I'm
like
saying,
how they
like,
would. I meant, no, I
yeah.
didn't mean if you were gay, but if how they would react if you were gay.
Yeah. Well, my father. Again, my mom, I think
She loves you no matter what.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Oh boy. Anyway,
Okay, last one.
yes.
2 Kings 6, the miracle of the axe head. Now the company of prophets said to Elisha, as you see, the place where we live under your charge is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan and let us collect logs there, one for each of us, and build a place there for us to live. He said, do so. Then one of them said, please come with your servants. And he answered, I will. So he went with them. When they came to the Jordan, they cut down trees. But as one was felling a log, his axe head fell into the water. He cried out, alas, master, it was borrowed. Then the man of God said, where did it fall? Then he showed him the place. He cut off a stick, threw it in there, and made the iron float. He said, pick it up. So he reached out his hand and took it. The Aramean attack is thwarted. Once, when the king of Aram was at war with Israel, he took counsel with his officers. He said, "At such and such a place shall be my camp." But the men of God sent word to the king of Israel, "Take care not to pass this place, because the Arameans are going down there." The king of Israel sent word to the place of which the man of God spoke. More than once or twice he warned such a place, so that it was on the alert. The man of the king of Aram was greatly perturbed because of this. He called his officers and said to them, "Now, tell me, who among us sides with the king of Israel?" Then one of his officers said, "No one, my lord king. It is Elisha, the prophet of Israel, who tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedchamber." He said, "Go and find where he is. I will send and seize him." He was told, "He is in the Dothan." So he sent horses and chariots there, and a great army. They came by night and surrounded the city. When an attendant of the man of God rose early in the morning and went out, an army with horses and chariots was all around the city. His servant said, "Alas, master, what shall we do?" He replied, "Do not be afraid, for there are more with us than there are with them." Then Elisha prayed, "O Lord, please open his eyes that he may see." So the Lord opened the eyes of the servant, and he saw the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. When the Arameans came down against him, Elisha prayed to the Lord and said, "Strike these people, please, with blindness." So he struck them with blindness, as Elisha had asked. Elisha said to them, "This is not the way, and this is not the city. Follow me, and I will bring you the man whom you seek." And he led them to Samaria. As soon as they entered Samaria, Elisha said, "O Lord, open the eyes of these men so that they may see." The Lord opened their eyes, and they saw that they were inside Samaria. When the king of Israel saw them, he said to Elijah, "Father, shall I kill him? Shall I kill him? Shall I kill him?" He answered, "No! Did you capture with your sword and your bow those whom you want to kill? Set food and water before them so that they may eat and drink, and let them go to their master." So he prepared for them a great feast. After they ate and drank, he sent them on their way, and they went to their master. And the Arameans no longer came raiding into the land of Israel. Ben-Hadad, siege of Samaria. Sometime later, King Ben-Hadad of Aram mustered his entire army. He marched against Samaria and laid siege to it. As the siege continued, famine in Samaria became so great that a donkey's head was sold for 80 shekels of silver, and 1/4 of a kebab of dove's dung for 5 shekels of silver. Now, as the king of Israel was walking on the city wall, a woman cried out to him, "Help, my lord king." He said, "No, let the Lord help you." "How can I help you? From the threshing floor or from the wine press?" But then the king asked her, "What's your complaint?" She answered, "This woman said to me, 'Give up your son. We will eat him today. We will eat my son tomorrow.' So we cooked my son and ate him. The next day I said to her, 'Give up your son and we will eat him.' But she has hidden her son." When the king heard the words of the woman, he tore his clothes. Now, since he was walking on the city wall, the people could not see that he had sackcloth on his body underneath. And he said, "So may God do to me and more if the head of Elisha, son of Shaphat, stays on his shoulders today." So he dispatched a man from his presence. Now Elijah was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him. Before the messenger arrived, Elijah said to the elders, "Are you aware that this murderer has sent someone to take off my head? When the messenger comes, see that you shut the door and hold it close against him. Is not the sound of his master's feet behind him?" While he was still speaking with them, the king came down and said, "This is from the Lord. Why should I hope in the Lord any longer?" This trouble is from the Lord. Why should I hope in the Lord any longer? The end.
Oh, well. Okay. Quite a bit.
I don't understand exactly what happened.
Well, that's great. I'll break it down to you.
Thank you. But could you mansplain it to me?
Well, hopefully Gemini will.
Real slow. I'm sorry, guys. Sometimes it's hard to read and read out loud and comprehend at the same time. I mean, I did get I'm sorry, the miracle of the axe head was not super impressive. I think I honestly think Elijah just has magnets and is blowing everyone's fucking minds with it. Because like all these whirlpools and stuff like that, you can do that kind of stuff with magnets.
Huh? Wait, so if I put a magnet over water, it like...
So I don't know
twirls?
about magnets. It's some types of minerals, because I've seen people do this with batteries. So if you use like the negative and positive charge of a battery, like you can make like a little whirlpool in a glass of water.
That's fucking... Yeah, I've seen that. That's interesting. That's fun.
But like, imagine if you lived in olden times and didn't have YouTube, or you know what I mean? Like, it sounds to me like Elijah is very good at close-up magic.
Yeah. I will not disagree on you with that.
Thank you.
Because, again, this was written so long ago, and I've said this many episodes. I just feel like the Christianity could have so many outs where they could, like, if they just updated their books, like even books like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's been updated like at least 2 or 3 times. You know, books get updated to fit the modern society. Mm-hmm. Like there's now the How to Win Friends and Influence in the digital age. There's How to Win Friends and Influence in the, I think I saw one that was like for this generation or something, like speaking into like generation X or Y or whatever.
Well, I think it's because they don't want people to read this. Like, I like to remind people, just in case maybe this is your first episode, but for the first 1,500 years of what we're calling sort of modern Western Christianity, there was no Bible. Like, it wasn't printed until the invention of the printing, like the Wittenberg Bible, like the invention of the printing press, where it was widely disseminated. Like, this was mostly just like some secret stuff that the Vatican had. So throughout most of what we're calling Christianity's history, what we're consuming as the Bible didn't really exist in this form. And there was a lot of pressure from the Vatican to not print it. They didn't want the common people reading this. So I think the reason why, and even having a New Revised Standard Version took a lot of, that's why there's all these different versions, because no one can agree on what it should and shouldn't say. It causes all these divisions. It really did break up their power. It's a great thing.
The problem with that, though, is like, don't secretly not want people to read this and then try to do the public thing where it's like, oh yeah, like we're cool with gay people now, or we're cool with it. Like,
are you asking them to stop? You want them to stop running game?
Yeah, I would like that.
Well, they're not going to. This is the game. Like, that's the whole thing. If you can't run game, you can't do this at all.
This is where I struggle as a human being, because
this is TK's Mein Kampf. My struggle.
Oh, is that what that translates to? I never knew that. I want to read.
I know that from Sarah Silverman's stand-up. It was a very funny bit. Just having this Jewish woman talk about Hitler's like my struggle. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
It was really funny.
Hitler is such a fascinating human being. Oh my gosh.
Okay, but now say something bad about him.
Well, he's Hitler.
Yeah,
that's hands on its own.
This is not a Hitler fan podcast, guys.
No, absolutely not. No, he's an atrocious human being.
But of course, it is interesting because and I think what's more important is to realize he didn't do it all by himself. Like, he was elected.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't have to go down a Hitler thing. Where I was going with that is, I just thought that was an interesting title because I never knew it was. I never knew it translated to my struggle.
But I'm sorry, you were talking about your struggle as a human being.
Yeah, my struggle is just because I feel like I've gotten backlash from you about essentially when I won't even say you're smarter than people or but like
I'm okay with saying that.
When you have a certain response. You have tried to preach to me that you have a certain responsibility when it's like, other people, you can take advantage of people and you're using your power you use your power in a negative way or a harm that could potentially be harmful way to them.
Yes, abuse.
And part of me, I mean, I agree with you.
Because I think specifically when we're talking about like financial scams, I think when we've had these conversations before, when people get scammed out of money.
I wasn't even going there. I don't. Well, no, I mean, we could use that. I don't agree. I would not do that because that's wrong. But
that's what I'm saying. Like whenever you take advantage of people who have less intellectual capacity. Let me get to my point. All right, I'm sorry.
But it seems to be almost human nature to do that. Is where I'm going with it. So it's like, in a way, are you going against your nature?
Yes, I go against my nature all the time to do the right thing. It's in human nature to steal. It's in human nature to rape. Like, just because it's in my nature, it doesn't mean like that's what we learn in therapy. Like,
is it? Because I've never looked at anybody and like, oh, I want to rape them.
No, I'm just talking about human nature. Like, obviously, I mean, same. I've never wanted to rape anyone either, but it seems to be, it's, you know, we see it in animals. Like, we see it in, like, it's in the natural world. And like I said, even stealing, that's in the natural world, but it's something that I fight the impulse for. Like, you learn in therapy, like, you have these thoughts and impulses, but you don't have to act on them.
Which brings up a more important conversation.
Okay.
I hate when people try to act like they're holier than thou and like they don't think fucked up shit. And then when you express like, oh, I'm thinking this fucked up thing, they look at you like, oh, how dare you? And it's like,
well, those are the same people who think what we just read really happened.
This is, yeah. this is
okay. Next time on the Bible Breakdown,
are we not explaining what happened, or were you just?
Oh, my bad. I thought I was ready to give up.
Well, I'll just give it. I mean, this is quick. So,
okay.
According to the summarization of New Revised Standard Version for 2 Kings 6,
and this is from Gemini.
This is from Gemini.
Okay.
Gemini, for those who don't know, is Google's version of AI that apparently is not really AI, according to
whatever
engineers that I've talked to. But whatever. Anyway, this is the tool. They found the Aramean army. The king of Aram repeatedly sends forces to capture Elisha. Elisha warns the king of Israel about these plans, who then thwart the Arameans. The frustrated Aramean king seeks to capture Elisha himself. The floating axe head, Elisha and the prophets need more space to live. While gathering wood by the Jordan River, one prophet loses his borrowed axe head in the water. Elisha miraculously makes the iron float, allowing the prophet to retrieve it. That is fucking lame. Like, you just fucking just, I don't know. Anyway,
ending the famine would be a good trick.
They're surrounded by the Arameans. The Aramean army surrounded the city where Elisha is staying. The king of Israel feels for Elisha's safety, but Elisha assures him of God's protection. Elisha strikes the Aramean soldiers with temporary blindness. Aramean hospitality and deception. Elisha leads the blind Aramean army to the king of Israel, who chooses to spare them. Elisha provides them with a feast and sends them back to their king. A siege by the Aramean army leads to a severe famine in Samaria. The king blames Elisha for the suffering and threatens his life. And then lastly, the severed head prophecy. A woman complains to the king about another woman who reneged on an argument to share their sons as food during the famine. The king, enraged, vows to kill Elisha. Elisha, aware of the king's plan through divine revelation, prepares for the king's messenger. The king himself arrives discouraged by the ongoing hardships, questioning his faith in God.
That is a good question. You should question your faith in God if women are eating their children.
Yeah.
And the miracle in this story was like, I was able to get the axe head. Whoa.
That was not a great miracle.
It was not. A great miracle would have been like, hey, everybody, the grain never ran out. What happened to that fucking miracle? Sorry. Sorry for you. I got a little hype there, but like, yeah, that's crazy. Like, you are gaslighting me right now. Like, that is absolutely insanity. Like, the people are eating their children. That is one of the more upsetting things that I've read in the Bible so far, and we just had 2 chapters about slavery.
eating your child is fucking wild.
But just imagine being in that state of desperation. And they were giving the prices. I'm sorry, I'm mad they gave us the price of stuff before they got to the part where like, oh yeah, and there was also cannibalism. It's like, man, it was like 80 shekels for a donkey head.
That's a lot, man. It's like $8,000 in today's money.
But it's to stay alive. You can't eat money.
I mean, you can. I don't know if it has the nutritional value that your body seeks.
I mean, technically, you can eat like, plastic. But like I said, like you can't eat these things for nourishment. Like you can't eat money for nourishment.
As a kid, I used to eat paper.
You know what? At least that's made from plants.
Yeah. I don't know why I did that. It was just something I tried. I mean, I don't know.
It's a thing.
It's better than eating
glue. It's a medical term. There's a medical term for it. But like, yeah, at least did you get constipated?
I don't know. And it's not something I do now. Like it's
sorry. Next time on the Bible Breakdown.
I was a weird fucking kid, like most people.
No, kids are, but you were kind of doing a science experiment. Kids are very curious. You get that beat out of you.
I was very curious. And
yeah.
I still, for the most part, am.
Yeah, I think it's important to stay curious.
The beatings these days are just from society.
Yeah, they're mostly financial. Okay, so next time on the Bible Breakdown, we will be talking about the Arameans. They flee, so that probably means violence. The Shulamite woman, she gets her land restored. Good for her. Hopefully she didn't have to eat any people. The death of Ben-Hadad, some more different changes and who's going to be over who. And it looks like we got a new character entering the game, the anointing of Jehu. Are we going to call him Jehu? Jehu. And then some people, wow, Jezebel's violent death.
Oh, love it.
That'll probably be the cherry on the sundae.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh man, people.
You know what's crazy?
No. Do your thing.
I'm sorry. Speaking of violence, real quick, we can end on this point. I was, I can't remember what it was. What movie did we mention? Some movie I was talking about with one of my uncles, my youngest uncle, last night, and he was like, he didn't like it. Fuck! I wish I could remember the movie. It's not that important. But it is in a sense because I was like,
text it to me later and I'll plug it in.
I don't remember the movie, but he said a movie and he said he didn't like it. Oh, it's Deadpool. It was the new Deadpool that's about to come out. He was like, I'm not going to see that. And I was like, why? But he went to go see Mad Max Furiosa. So I was like, well, why are you not going to go see it? And he was just like, man, I don't want to see. He was like, Deadpool cracks too many jokes for me. And I was like, well, isn't that what his character's known for? Like he was like, he's a joking person, and then he was like, yeah, man, I just get to the killing. I want to see the killing. And I was just like, what? And he was like, yeah, I want to see. He was like, I want to see the killing. And so I was just like, well, if you just want to see killing, just watch like John Wick or something. And then he was just, I don't know. For some reason, that was just like, in my mind, I was just thinking, like, how barbaric are we that, like, we're
pretty barbaric, man.
To see
that's why Wolverine really resonates with us. It's like, oh, I wish I had claws so I could slice people.
This is a whole nother train of thought that we can get into later. Anyway, I don't know. That just struck me.
I'm looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm looking forward to discussing X-Men 97 when you finally watch it.
I already did. I don't know why.
You did?
I don't know. Said that. Tried to throw me under the bus there.
A little bit. I don't know. I love that franchise. So the X-Men mean a lot to me. But not everybody has to enjoy it. I get it if you don't like jokes. I think it's probably because Deadpool is bisexual. I think that's why a lot of people have trouble with the character.
Is he? I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah. I think he's pansexual. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just free.
Which is apparently different than queer.
Remember in the second one, I think, or I don't know which Deadpool movie it was where he was getting pegged.
Damn it. I have a whole... Fuck. I don't even know how
Your
to
body
articulate.
belongs to you. If you want to get pegged, if you want
No. I need to work through this thought because it's something I've often thought, but I don't know how to
I'm
express.
trying to wrap this show up so hard.
We can wrap it up. Fine.
Okay.
You put me in a moment where I need to.
I'm sorry.
Matter.
I brought up pegging.
To be continued.
It's a whole
To be
thing.
continued.
Yes. Join us next time.
On a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Be curious, not judgmental. biblebreakdownpodcast@gmail.com, at Bible Break Pod on Twitter, and Bible Breakdown Podcast on Instagram.
Oh, we're on Twitter?
We are on Twitter.
Huh. Do you ever do anything on Twitter?
I should. That could be like my burner account now. I can get my shit off.
Right? That's how I use it on Instagram.
I know you've been posting shit. I didn't realize you had actually been putting out there that, hey,
That's
new
right.
episode.
I have. I've been trying.
I don't be on Instagram and shit. Like, I don't really
That's
be on
good. It's
social
not.
media.
You know what? Do what works for you.
Yeah. But, all right, y'all. Until next time. Peace.